Housing.
When do we want it?
Now, right now.
What do we want?
Housing.
I can't hear you guys. When do we want it?
Right now.
I want them to hear it on the 5th floor where Kwame Brown's office.
Ahora mismo. Ahora mismo.
What do we want?
Viviendo.
When do we want it?
Ahora mismo.
All right, you guys sound good. Just kidding. The next person we have up is Eric Sheptalk.
You want to do me a favor and hold this for me?
Sure.
Okay.
You want? I got you.
Film who you want to film. But okay, yes, my name is Eric Sheptalk, and I guess a lot of you here already know me. But anyway, I'm a local homeless advocate, and let me see if I can fix this wire real fast. Okay, there we go. Now, anyway, I came to tell you a thing or two about permanent supportive housing, which the lady before me mentioned. But here's the deal. First of all, let me give you some context. Here in DC, they count the homeless every January. In January 2007, DC had 5,757 homeless people. In 2008, we had 6,044. In September of 2008, Mayor Fenty closed Franklin School Shelter. And in order to justify the closure, he created what was called permanent supportive housing. And, you know, I was known to be Mayor Fenty's arch enemy, but nonetheless, you know, for all his vices, I got to give him his props. He did create permanent supportive housing, and that has actually done a lot to put a dent in the number of homeless people. So anyway, in January of 2008, we had, like I said, 6,044 homeless. But in January 2009, it still went up to 6,228. And then in 2010, it was 6,539. So it's been increasing approximately 300 people per year. But then came 2011, the year we're in. And this year, we only had 6,546 homeless people. That's still 6,546 too many. But nonetheless, it was only an increase of 7 people as opposed to 300 a year. And so we had begun to get a handle on the homeless problem. You know, and a lot of folk who have been working really hard on this issue, I see a few of them in the crowd here, they were really excited that we're finally getting a handle on this thing. But now we're about to defund permanent supportive housing, which is the one program that has actually done the most to help us get a handle on this problem. And so more than 1,200 homeless people from across DC have been housed in permanent supportive housing. Well, the lingering fear is that as of April 1st of next year, the only shelter that'll be left is the one where I'm at, actually, because I'm homeless, for those who didn't know, but CCNV, which is the Community for Creative Nonviolence. That shelter was created due to a federal mandate that a covenant was signed by Ronald Reagan and Mitch Snyder in 1988. They're both dead now, but that covenant is good until 2018. They can't touch that federal shelter until 2018. But all other shelters are city shelters, you know, and they're in danger of being closed. And so of the 6,500 plus homeless people in this city, we might have in excess of 5,000 of them on the street in less than a year, which is why I'm glad to see all of you here. But we need more people here because, you know, I should also say that there's an organization called Downtown Bid. Downtown Bid, for those who don't know, is who employs SAM. Some of you see the SAM people with the red and blue uniforms on, safety and maintenance. Well, they're employed by Downtown Bid. You know, you got Downtown Bid, you got Golden Triangle, you got NOMA, you got a few other BIDs around here. And Downtown Bid used to pay $450,000 per year to keep the homeless people in the basement of the church that was next to MLK Library. That church has since been torn down, and there's a brand new building going up right there. But, you know, we're going to reverse the very thing that they had tried to solve. And even now, we have families with small children, 5 and under, that are sleeping in the Greyhound station, and they're sleeping in their cars. And there was a woman who came in this building back in March, and she mentioned how that her baby was born on February 10th of this year. And she had been to the intake center 4 times while pregnant and got turned away. She went back twice after having the baby and got turned away. And for the whole first month of that baby's life, that baby was homeless. She was sleeping with her baby in the stairwell of an apartment complex that has no security guards. And she was also sleeping in the Greyhound station. Now, I think that's a terrible indictment on our city. This is the capital city of the wealthiest, most powerful country in the world, and yet we have mothers with newborn babies, 2 days old, just left the hospital, sleeping in a Greyhound station, sleeping in an unsecured apartment in the stairwell of all places. I'd be scared to sleep with my baby in my arms in a stairwell because I might wake up without the baby or roll over on the baby. Who knows what might happen? And so I'm gonna stop there, but just by letting you know that even now, we have families that are being turned away from shelter. They've already stopped taking families into the shelter. The woman I just told you about, we're actually in regular contact now. We're now very good friends, but even so, she was one of the last people to get into the family shelter, and now we have families being turned away. And I also found out they spend $12 million per year on the family shelter, and the family shelter houses 150 families. Now let's do the math, people. If you spend $12 million housing 150 families per year, that's $80,000 per year. You don't spend that much on rent. We're out here trying to get affordable housing, and you're spending 3 times the average rent keeping them in a shelter. You may as well house 500 families rather than having 150 families in that shelter to the tune of $80,000 per family per year, right? Let's be cost effective. But with that, I am really going to stop, and I see Councilman Marion Barry down here, and so I got to give him his props and let him do his thing. All right.
Councilmember Barry, will you say a few words?
Thank you.
I'll say more than a few words. How's everybody? Everybody bad? You ought to be. You know, my history is that I've been fighting for the most vulnerable all of my life. Whether it's civil rights, or whether it's human rights, whether it's gay rights, or whether it's women's rights, whether it's homeless rights, I've been there. Now we are in a dilemma right here. This city, because Agent Fenty had messed up so many things, I'm not blaming him, that's a fact.
I didn't vote for him.
His budget was the worst budget we have had in the history of this city. And so what Vince Gray had to do was to try to, in one fell swoop, correct a whole bunch of shit. All right? And
Tell it like it is.
Office in January. 3 months of the budget had already been prepared, ready to come to the council. Now, he made some cuts that I disagree with. Summer jobs, homeless, other areas, TANF, other things. But our dilemma is there were $127 million of cuts in the social services. Where the council operates, if I want to restore money to a program, which I certainly want to, I got to identify the revenue. And some of us are in the process of trying to identify some revenue. For instance, Jim Graham is pushing, I'm pushing, the millionaires tax, so they can pay their fair share of money. We're pushing for more jobs for DC residents. The DC government is guilty. Over 60% of our residents live outside of the city, taking revenue with them. And I'm pushing for, we're going to get this done this year, a 10% preference for DC residents to get jobs. Not Prince George's County, not Maryland, etc. I love them, but they don't live in this city. We're pushing for a number of other things. So to help us to do that, we have to fight. The numbers ought to be 10 times this size. Right? All right? So I just urge you to keep on fighting. I'm going to keep on fighting, trying to identify revenue. It's tough as hell. But, you know, I'm used to tough shit, you know. Excuse my language. I just get there. I get fired up here, you know. All right. What are we going to do? Fight. What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
Fight. Fight till they get it right.
What are we going to do?
Fight till they get it right.
Win. 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 Thank you and God bless you.
Who you got?
Councilmember Barry, and we know the fight
We're not gonna take it.
Can I get Ezekiel Raspberry? You're going to come say a few words for us? The Maple Court Tenant Association.
Good evening, everybody. How you doing? My name is Ezekiel Raspberry, and I am the president of the United Tenant for Change over in the 2300 block of Harford Street, Southeast Washington. And, you know, I mean, like the tenant, that's a hard job. When you're dealing with close to 60 some odd units on your property, and when you walk the property, some of us enjoy coming home to a lovely home, you know. But see, my problem is this: I'm disabled, me and my wife. And the last time I was here, I spoke about that. But in the event since then, housing counseling, they came through for me. I was $4,000 in the rear of my rent because I was forced back from Social Security, being we haven't had a raise in a few years. I had to go back to work, y'all. I'm 60 years old. But I just thank God that I was able to do that. But then at the time, they say, you making too much money, so we can't. I got laid off the job 4 months. In that time, it set my rent behind. But the property didn't want to hear that. But they told me I made too much money with my Social Security and going back to work. So they wouldn't be able to help me. That ain't right. If we run into problems, disabled people, I'm not excluding anybody else. But right now I'm speaking of the criteria that I live in. We should always, it should be something on the side for that all the time. That's right. We shouldn't have to get into a critical situation to eviction and all this pop up for it to become a priority. You know, so that's the only thing I'm saying, y'all. We gotta do this. I got my mom, I got my wife who's very sick, and believe me, if she could be here today, she would. So these are the people that I'm concerned about, the ones who can't get out and do for themselves. So I want to be a mouthpiece for them. That's why I'm here today, y'all. And I'm not going to hold this up any longer. Because see, when I think about it, I'm just going to keep fighting like everybody's saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we're concerned that the emergency rental assistance program, although we've heard that there's not going to be a cut, we're still very concerned about that program, and we're trying to keep a close eye on it and make sure that that's true. We have some really fun stuff for the end, so don't go anywhere. First up, we're going to have Trisha Kinch, who is also